Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the financial habits of the wealthy. And I've got to say, I'm already fascinated by these sources.
Oh, yeah.
One is this Forbes article. It's called 16 Smart Financial Habits the Wealthy Follow.
Okay.
And it's just packed with advice from people who work with, like, high net worth individuals every day.
And the other?
Well, the other source, we actually only have the title, Mastering Wealth, 5 Financial Habits of Billionaires.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the fun. Like, we'll be piecing together the billionaire mindset, as we go along.
Exactly.
The mission here isn't about becoming billionaires overnight. I mean, let's be real, that rarely happens.
Right.
But I think we can uncover some real gems about building wealth, no matter where you're starting from.
Absolutely. And the first thing that just jumps out at me is this whole idea that money shouldn't just be sitting there.
Right.
Will Murphy of Everlasting Capital puts it this way: money needs to be working for you at all times.
Okay, so what does that actually look like in practice? It's easy to say, but I need more than just a catchy phrase.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Think of it like this. Your money should be your most productive employee.
Okay.
Constantly generating more value. Instead of keeping cash, tucked away somewhere, it's about putting it to work through investments, side hustles, or even something as simple as a high-yield savings account.
I'm starting to see the picture here. And it reminds me of what Jessica Canella from Oak Harvest Financial Group calls habitual investing. She emphasizes building the habit of investing regularly, even if it's just a small amount.
That's a crucial point. It's like you're building a muscle, a financial muscle. Consistency over time. That leads to significant growth thanks to the magic of compound interest. Even small amounts invested regularly can snowball into a substantial nest egg.
Got it. So it's not about finding some magic formula or waiting for the perfect time to invest.
Right.
It's about making it a regular habit.
Yeah.
But then there's also the planning side of things too.
Yes.
I mean, you need a strategy, right?
Absolutely. And that leads us to our second theme: strategic planning and goal setting. Sanderson Wealth Management advises wealthy families to focus on the signal, not the noise.
Okay, help me unpack that. What exactly is this signal when it comes to personal finances?
Sure. The signal is your overall financial health and how it's trending over time. Are you building net worth? Are you reducing debt? Are you making progress toward those long-term goals?
Okay.
That's the signal that you need to pay attention to.
Got it.
The noise might be day-to-day market fluctuations or small insignificant expenses that distract you from the bigger picture.
So it's less about stressing over every coffee purchase and more about having a clear financial roadmap.
Exactly.
Robert Mallarney from Eaton Advisors, he suggests actually writing down your life goals and crafting a financial plan around them. I think that's something a lot of us could benefit from.
Absolutely. It's about connecting your finances to your aspirations. Do you want to travel the world? Start a business. Retire early. Your financial plan should be a blueprint for achieving those goals.
That makes sense. But life is full of surprises, right?
Right.
You can't always predict what's going to happen.
Exactly. And that's where Nick Chandy from 480i's advice comes in. He emphasizes the need to regularly review and adjust your financial plan. It's not a static document. It needs to be flexible and adaptable to life's curveballs. Think of it more as a living document that evolves as your circumstances change.
That makes a lot of sense. But even with a plan, sticking to it can be tough. What about the spending side of the equation? I mean, how do you make sure you're actually moving towards those goals?
That's where our next theme comes in: smart spending and budgeting. And Lance Drucker from Drucker Wealth, he has a classic piece of advice that applies here. He says, the key to lifelong financial success is to always live below your means.
Okay, that's a great soundbite. But I'll admit, sometimes it feels a bit vague. What does living below your means actually look like day to day?
It starts with understanding where your money is going. Martin Jarzbowski from Federated Hermes, he emphasizes tracking your income and expenses. And he puts it rather bluntly: it's not how much you earn, it's how much you burn.
He's not wrong. I think that's something a lot of us could stand to be more aware of.
Right.
But tracking every single penny can be a bit tedious, don't you think?
It doesn't have to be that granular. It's more about having a general framework for your spending and understanding the big categories. How much are you spending on housing, food, transportation, entertainment, and savings each month? Once you have that overview, you can make conscious choices and adjustments.
So it's more about being intentional with your spending, making sure it aligns with your values and your long-term goals.
Exactly.
And speaking of being intentional, Cynthia Hemingway has a really strong stance on credit card debt. She says, do not pay interest. She really advocates for avoiding those high-interest charges that can just eat into your savings.
Absolutely. It's not about avoiding credit cards altogether, but about using them strategically. If you can't pay off your balance in full each month, it might be better to stick with cash or debit. Even those seemingly small interest charges can accumulate over time and derail your progress.
It's that signal versus noise idea again, right?
Exactly.
Those small charges can seem insignificant in the moment, but they become a major distraction from the big picture. And this leads to a question that I've been pondering. Even the wealthy, with all their resources, often rely on expert guidance. Why is that?
That's a great observation, and it ties into our next theme, leveraging resources and expertise. Evan Gell from FFO LLC points out that wealthy individuals often meet with financial advisors, accountants, and estate planners. They recognize they don't have all the answers, and that specialized knowledge can be incredibly valuable.
So it's not just about having a ton of money to manage.
Right.
It's about recognizing when expert advice can make a difference.
Exactly. And you don't need to be a millionaire to seek expert guidance. Even if you're just starting out, a financial advisor can help you create a solid foundation, navigate investment options, and make sure you're on track to meet your goals.
Okay, that makes sense. And it seems like a natural progression from the previous themes. You start by being mindful of your money, you create a plan, and then you seek expert guidance to help you execute that plan effectively.
Precisely. It's all about building a solid financial framework and using the right tools and resources to support your journey.
I love this idea of it being a journey.
Yeah.
It feels less intimidating and more like a process of continuous learning and growth.
Exactly. And speaking of learning, Tosin Osunkoya from Commercio Partners Limited, he emphasizes the importance of constantly acquiring financial knowledge and skills. He believes that's the key to building sustainable wealth.
It makes sense. The more you know, the more confident you are in making decisions.
Right.
But it's not just about knowledge, is it? There's also an element of risk involved in building wealth.
You're right. Letitia Birbaum from the Zandbergen Group reminds us that understanding your risk tolerance is crucial. How much risk are you comfortable taking with your investments?
This is where it can get a little tricky, right? I mean, all investments carry some level of risk.
They do. But knowing your own comfort level with risk can help you make more informed decisions. If you're risk averse, you might prefer more conservative investments like bonds. If you're comfortable with more volatility, you might consider stocks or even real estate.
Okay.
The key is to find an approach that aligns with your goals and your personality.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not just about saving money or even investing.
Right.
It's about understanding the complex interplay of all these factors. Your goals, your risk tolerance, your knowledge, and your willingness to adapt and learn.
Exactly. And Amanda Hahn from Keystone CPA, she has a great way of putting it, make sure that your money is working for you.
I love that. So it's not about hoarding money. It's about putting it to work in a way that aligns with your values and your vision for the future. But we can't forget about taxes, right? I mean, they play a significant role in the financial landscape as well.
Absolutely. Sean Scutellaro from Conresnick LLP highlights the importance of understanding the tax implications of your financial decisions. It's not about avoiding taxes entirely, but about understanding how the system works and making informed choices that benefit you in the long run.
So it's about being tax savvy, not tax averse.
Exactly. And that brings us to the end of part 1 of our deep dive.
Wow, we've already covered so much ground. And I have to say, I'm even more intrigued by that mastering wealth source now.
Right?
What secrets do billionaires hold about building wealth? We'll have to explore that further in part 2.
Stay tuned because we'll be delving deeper into the habits of the ultra wealthy and how they apply to your financial journey.